Satoru was my uncle Satoru. Come to think of it, I had heard from my mother a while back that he had taken over the bookshop in Jimbucho that my great-grandfather started. The last time I'd seen him, I was in my first year of high school. So, we hadn't seen each other in almost a decade. But I was sure that was his voice. And then I had the sneaking suspicion that my mother was behind this. Yes, it had to be her. She was the only person I told that I'd quit my job and broken up with my boyfriend. She must have asked him for a favor because she was so worried about me. But even so, that wasn't a good enough reason. To be honest, I wasn't really that fond of Uncle Satoru. He was so unconventional that he was hard to figure out. He was completely uninhibited, no matter who was around. He was always making little jokes and chuckling to himself. It was odd, and it made him come off as a bit of a weirdo, which bothered me. But when I was little, I loved his personality. We used to play together in his room when my mother took me back with her to Tokyo to visit her family. But as I approached puberty, his eccentricity became extremely off-putting, and I started secretly avoiding him. And then, on top of that, he suddenly got married, even though he didn't have a steady job yet. From then on, one way or another, he seemed to cause trouble in the family. That's why, when I came to Tokyo, I never once thought of going to see him. I was trying not to have anything to do with him. The afternoon after I got his voicemail, I reluctantly called him back. I could just imagine my mother flying into a blind rage if I didn't return his call. Given that my uncle was in his mid-20s when I was in grade school, he must be already past 40. On the very first ring, someone answered. Hello, this is the Morisaki Bookshop. Hi, it's me, Takako. Oh, hey. I could hear my uncle shouting on the other end of the line. That's the intensity I remember from the old days. I rushed to hold the phone away from my ear. It's been so long. You been okay? Yeah, well, I knew you were in Tokyo, but you never came to visit me. Sorry about that. I've been busy with work. I apologized automatically. But you quit, didn't you? He cut to the quick. I mumbled a response. This was not a man you could expect delicacy from. My uncle just kept on talking, telling me how this was just like the old days. Talking on and on until he suddenly came out and said, Listen, I've been thinking if you don't feel like walking right now, how about you come and stay here? Sorry, his sudden offer caught me off guard. But my uncle kept pressing me for an answer. The money you're spending on rent and utilities is nothing to sneeze at. If you come here, it's all free. Well, you could maybe help me out a little at the bookshop. When I asked him about it, he explained that he was running the shop all by himself. He needed someone to open up in the mornings for him while he went to his appointments at the hospital to be treated for his back pain. My uncle lived in a house in Kunitachi, so I'd have the place to myself when the shop was closed. He assured me I'd have total privacy. The place had been a residence until some years ago, so it was fully equipped with a proper bathroom. I thought it over for a moment. I knew my current arrangement couldn't last forever. If I kept on living this way, I was going to run out of money soon. On the other hand, I didn't like the idea of anyone interfering in my life. But I'm sure I'd be imposing, I said, attempting to decline the offer. My uncle did not take the hint at all. Imposing? That's nonsense. It would be my pleasure to have you. Did Aunt Momoko agree too? I started to ask the question, but I quickly caught myself. That's right. His wife Momoko had gone and left him years ago. It was a pretty big deal in our family. When she ran off, he seemed so depressed that my mother was really worried his health might suffer too. I remember feeling sorry for my uncle when I heard the news, but it left me with a strange feeling. It didn't make sense. At their wedding, the two of them had seemed so deeply in love. Aunt Momoko was so kind and good-natured. She was hardly the kind of person who seemed likely to run off. I was remembering all this and mumbling my way through the conversation. My uncle, meanwhile, was trying to rush ahead with the plan. Great, it's decided then. I tried again to hold him off. But what about all my things? I said. But he told me he had space in his house in Kunitachi for all that. I could send everything there and just take some smaller bags with me to the shop. It looked like I'd been outmaneuvered on all fronts. Trust me, Takako, this will be better for you too. But how was I supposed to trust someone I hadn't seen in a decade? Well, I'll start getting things ready over here, my uncle said. And then, without waiting for a response, he told me a customer had just come in and we'd have to talk later. Then he hung up. I sat there for a while in a daze, listening to the dial tone. So this is the last part of the part 1. So in the next audio, I'll continue to the part 2. Thank you for your listening.